Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with the chair.
I'm Joe Etling, Chair of the Vigo County Democratic Central Committee, and welcome to the award-winning Chat with the Chair. We're delighted you could join us. Hope everybody's doing well today as we are working our way through the month of May, the beautiful month of May. We have a tremendous guest tonight, a guest that is so well known to you in our viewership that he needs no introduction. Having said that, though, go ahead and remind our viewers who may not know who you are.
So my name's Todd Thacker. I'm with the IBW Electricians and is my day job, and then I'm on County Council in the evenings.
Yes, you are, and of course, anyone that has known you as TV Todd, that is an inaccurate portrayal. Is that right?
Well, I'd say so. Most time it's more radio, probably. not really a face for TV.
Well, you have been a very generous guest here on the Chat with the Chair, and we're delighted that you've joined us in the past, and of course we're delighted you could join us today. And it's somewhat of a bittersweet visit that you have here today, Todd. So tell our viewers what's going on with Todd Thacker.
Well, I think as we it's just another chapter in our life, so I'm getting close to the end of my career as a business major. This last term was a 3-year term that will finish up in, we have elections in June and we change offices in July. So I'll be wrapping up my 38-year career at the IBW. That's what brought me to Terre Haute. I got into the apprenticeship program and I drove it for 14 months, 200 miles a day. And then when I could afford to move, in 1985, I moved to Terre Haute.
So, of course, we have a lot of people out in our viewership that are members of organized labor and tremendous supporters of organized labor. But for those of you that are in our viewership that may not completely understand that whole process, talk to them about what IBEW stands for and talk about that apprenticeship program and what you went through to get to where you are today. Yeah,
so the IBEW stands for International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And there are different charters. We've had our charter since 1913 here in Terre Haute. It's been around since 1891, started in St. Louis, Missouri when they were having the World's Fair. And there was a need in it for electrification at the World's Fair in 1891. And so a group of hardworking people who were having about 50% of the people that worked in the industry were killed by working in the industry. So the original start was for better benefits, a death benefit for the widows, and for better quality of life and better pay. So that's why we formed. And so even 131 years later, we still strive to have, we just had our international convention in Chicago, and we have that once every 5 years. It was postponed from September due to COVID. And we have that to elect our international officers, and we have right at 700,000 members, and that's in the United States and in Canada. And like I said, we have a charter that takes in 15 counties, 9 counties in Indiana, and 6 counties in Illinois, so we deal with both states. And we represent those 700 members that are of IBW. And for me, what I tell people is it gives a person who has an interest in it an opportunity to get in, get an education, not a job, but a career. And so we are trying to do more to be more inclusive. And we work with the Vigo County School Corporation and other school corporations to try to get young men and women who are interested in the trade some exposure, because a lot of times if you don't know somebody, you might not know the processes, how to get it.
Now, I know it's been a couple days ago that you got started, but what was it in particular that drew your interest to the electrician?
So I too was one of those kids in high school. I grew up on a farm, but in high school I took a building trades class. And in building trades we did all facets. We built a complete house every year, and then we sold it, and the profit went to the school corporation. Well, electricity was the one part of that that I seemed to really enjoy and like. And I had an older cousin who had gotten in and was in the trade, so I had a little knowledge of it. And so I thought that was something that if you enjoy your work that you do, and then what I didn't know is all the opportunities it had. I didn't have any idea about moving to Terre Haute or being an opportunity to work in the office or be in administration of it. And you know, one of the things that just not only the wage, but it's the health care and the pension benefits. And now I'm going to be one of those pensioners that get to take advantage of that, paying in all those years.
Of course, you have been very visible in this community and many others in your capacity, and of course some would say that you're also very outspoken in your, some would say that. I can't imagine who.
My wife, one.
She would be at the top of the list that would say it.
She would be the first.
But of course you've got a beautiful facility out there off State Road 46, and so it's very visible, and can you talk about that? And
interesting, when I got in, we were at 1101 North 11th Street. And when we would have meetings on the second Friday of the month, we would have to pause while the trains would go by, if you can imagine, which is good commerce. It's not a problem with the trains. Now we moved in 2001, we moved out to where we're at 5675 East Holman. And then we had the Jets, so that we progressed. We bought 10 acres out there and put a building up, and it's been a good corner there. We're back off back off the highway just a little bit, but we have a sign out and display our solar, and it's good to be. We're glad to be part of the community where we make it a voting. One of the 17 locations you can vote, where you can actually vote 1 week early, and we have a good number of people that like to come out there and do that, and then just like we were able to work with the Democrats and host some training out there. So I think if you're any kind of organization, you have to make everybody aware that you're part of the community.
Yeah, and again, as Todd indicated, we after the primary had the Democrat precinct committee persons trained out there. It was a great event, and Todd was a gracious host, but just a beautiful facility. And I think that, as you say, the community really has utilized that as a vote center, and I know that those solar panels, draw a lot of attention. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when we put those panels up, I think it's probably been 11 years since we put those up, so now we know that there's better and more effective with greater output panels, but it is a conversational piece. Now we do have what they call net metering, where the amount that they produce in the course of a day, it comes off of our bill. So that's beneficial. We have that arrangement with Duke Energy. And we have two different ones. We have just the 20 panels down by the sign, then we have 40 panels up by our building. And then I have a similar situation on at my farm. So I mean, I think if you're going to walk the walk, you got to talk the talk, So if you're going to promote something, you have to also demonstrate. We were fortunate to get a grant when we did those because we're a non-for-profit, and we used it for educational purposes too. We have a training center at 950 Ohio Street where people can apply, and we take applications there every month. But our office is up there for the electricians. And when we have our training center, it's a joint venture between our contractors and the union. So we like to show people that we partner with our contractors.
You're always a tough interview because you just start volunteering things. You just take the charge of the show.
Sorry.
But you brought that up, and I'm glad you brought that up about the training center that's located really in the heart of downtown, and that's visible too, very visible area, and frequently see a number of cars out there. So talk a little bit more about that and that facility, what's in there and what's utilized for.
Well, we have a full-time training director, and then we have a full-time assistant and a secretary there. So there's people there all the time. We make applications, and so I don't think we do a good enough job of really letting people know. We try to do some outreach. We go to career fairs, but we have about 140 apprentices that attend there, and they start out at first. They go to school. They take night classes for the first couple years, and then once they become of a 5-year program. In the 3rd year, they start going and they go one Friday a month. And so they do that, and then I think they end up having 3 Saturdays a year. So they're trying to do that to where they still have a good family life and night, and have their evenings off. So it takes 8,000 hours of on-the-job training and 800 hours of classroom over a 5-year period. It's a progression. So when you complete a year and you complete the training, then you get a pay raise. And so we have that. So we try to step them up, and they go from 45% to 100% in 5 years.
Wow. And so with regard to somebody who's viewing or has a family or friend that's interested, they can come to the training center.
Yes.
There on Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And are there any restrictions upon age or any other things?
Well, there's no age restriction, but you do have to have a high school diploma or GED, unless you have to be at least 18 years old to apply.
Okay.
And if you have and you have to have either 1 year of algebra or high school or college level. So that's an entry level and a $30 application fee. Everybody who makes an application takes a aptitude test. The people that score high enough on the aptitude test all get an interview. We keep that score for 2 years, and we constantly are interviewing. And then when we start, we take from the top of whoever's the highest scoring.
And I know you have regular meetings with other groups, including the operating engineers, the iron workers, laborers. So if somebody's out there and they have an interest in getting involved with organized labor, why would they choose to come to you as opposed to one of those?
Well, and it has to really, if I got somebody come to me and they really had a bigger interest in operating engineers, I would forward them the information, because we want them to be in the trade that they want to be in.
But what traits, though, do you think best suit them to come work as an electrician?
Well, I think with us, we have a lot of different facts. If you're really interested in the electronics or the inner workings of it, which the electrical, because it impacts so many different things in manufacturing, and we have a refinery in our jurisdiction. So we really see some people who come out of high school that maybe have the STEM, with the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and so that seems to be what it draws interest to us. And but like I say, I have great friends in the building trades, which there's 14 trades that all come to the building trades meeting. And if we find somebody that's better suited for another one, we share that information.
But do you find that people would be better suited with your trade, particularly that if they are more handy, or that they maybe have the capacity to make honey, or is there anything that would be?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, one of the things we see is we really seem to be people who enjoy the outdoors. If they're going to be construction and it's going to be hot, or it's going to be cold, or it's going to be rainy. So if they don't mind the outdoors and they're a little more, I sometimes think that our interview process, we kind of gravitate to more A personalities.
Okay.
As maybe the
doesn't have to do with the leadership, does it?
No, I don't think so. But the reason I say that is there are 7 questions that you're asked during the interview process, and they're very situational questions, and we're asking you an open-ended question. So if you can articulate or maybe sell yourself, you're selling yourself. And if you don't do a very good job on selling yourself, we don't score you very well.
I see.
So I think maybe those are combinations. But we do have some people that are pretty quiet and reserved, but they give some nice thought process. So, but it seems to me like we have a lot of more overts.
So we're going to lay out what those 7 questions are tonight?
No, I can't. I can't give that out. But those 7 questions they have been our National Training Institute has supposedly vetted a lot of money on them, so that they are situational questions that are within the legal limits of what we can ask, but they're open-ended enough. But they also tell us a little bit about what motivates you, or what your interests are, or
so
how
you're not just holding out for the chat. I mean, this isn't 60 Minutes or NPR. I understand, and you're normally running those circles.
So no, it's just they are guarded, so we can be. So it's fair and equitable.
Okay, so of course you alluded to your national
Yes.
meeting up in Chicago
Yes.
here recently,
Yes.
and of course you again were quoted nationally, and you seem to have an affinity to that.
Well, it just so happened I was like Forrest Gump. I just happened to be in the right place at it was interesting when President Biden came to speak. I was positioned in the front of the hall, but I wasn't in the front row, but in the back of the section of the front. I was positioned happened to be where they set up the press.
Is that right? Imagine that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you're a name dropper, and we're 15 or 20 minutes in this interview before you threw Biden's name out.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was. And of course, Governor Pritzker and Mayor Lightfoot as well.
But they shut Chicago down to bring the president in. Is that right?
They did. It was really quite impressive. I have never been where they had brought somebody in like that, and I got up that morning to see about 60 large trucks with salt in them in May. And I thought, what's going on here? And they used them as portable road closures.
Wow.
And they shut down I-55 that goes right under McCormick place that we were meeting. And they brought him in a helicopter and had the Ospreys with them. And so it was quite interesting. And they we had all been vetted to be a delegate. So that helped the process. But the day before, not even the day of, but the day before, they set up metal detectors and were checking us going in and out.
Wow.
So they're very serious about it. And then everybody who got to be in close proximity had to have an instant test for COVID. We all had to show our vaccination to attend the conference, but then the ones who got to meet them had to have an instant test.
So how was the president?
Yeah, I thought he did a really good job, and I think the reason we were energized and excited, it was the first time in 40 conventions over 131 years that we had a sitting president come. We got out and endorsed President Biden for his campaign early on, and he actually said if it hadn't been for the IBW, he wouldn't have got elected.
Wow.
Because of the early endorsement. And so he was very gracious. And we have seen, and my quote was basically, we're going to see the dividends that our hard work and effort has paid off. And so we have seen more. This is the most union-friendly president in history. He even more so than FDR.
Wow.
And so we're seeing that now the public opinion for unions with this COVID and people coming out of the great resignation, that people are wanting more for their job. They want more compensation. They want better benefits, better conditions, and that's what unions are about. And so with Biden playing right into that and all this infrastructure, other presidents have talked about infrastructure. We're going to do some infrastructure. We're going to do solar. We're going to turn the planet greener, and through carbon sequestration, hopefully right here in Terre Haute, hopefully the solar farms that we're going to do. So we play a vital part, and if you're going to get any of that incentive money that comes with that, you're going to be using union labor.
So what do you see in your membership see as significance of the president coming to that event?
Yeah, I think it is recognition. I think that's what it comes to. Is he has a great relationship with our international president, Lonnie Stevens, who's from Illinois, and who came up through the ranks and then got elected at our last convention and works in D.C. And he's on the transition team. He's on advisory boards. And so he really cares about working people. As he said, our theme was lighting the way for the middle class, and according to President Biden, unions made the middle class. So it really felt right into our theme of what we were trying to do. And so,
from your perspective and your experience, what do you see as the current relationship between unions and the Democratic Party?
I think they're good. I think they're really good. I know locally here, you and I have had this. You've been to our building trades, and it was really nice just recently, before the primary, all the candidates that wanted to come to the building trades. And I said, if we weren't relevant, they wouldn't care to come and see us. Right. So we have to be relevant. And we have to ignite that grassroots and get people out to vote and get them registered and show them why it's important that we're doing it. And I think nationally that's important too. I think that we all have more work to do in the unions, because I think people, if they're not educated on the issues, they will vote on slogans from bumper stickers, or, you know, vote for wedge issues, as we call them.
Right. Of course, you've been at this for quite a long time, both with regard to your union work and political. How have they changed, how have they evolved, and has it gotten better or worse? What would you say?
I'd say, you know, and I think this is all I'll blame social media, whatever it is, but it seems like we're so divisive, and we don't have to be. We can find commonality. And, you know, being on the county council, it seems like an issue that we're addressing, it seems like it just has to be an extreme one way or another. You know, I respect when we had a current issue that we've been getting a lot of feedback, and I try to respond to every person, no matter if they're for or against the issue, and tell them thank you for your input. And because as good government, I think that's what we have to do, is we have to listen to everybody, and then we ultimately have to make a decision what we think is best for the county. And so I'd say I'm more involved in politics than I ever have been, and I see it to be more, there's less middle ground and there's more extreme left and right.
Okay.
And I try to bring the middle together.
With regard to the unions, I assume that it's been an ebb and flow a little bit with regard to the position of organized labor, and I think, as you said, right now it seems that it's on an upward trajectory.
Yes. Yeah, so our numbers have been, we've been in a decline for a few years, and we have worked hard. The IBW has worked to be, I think the parallel you can draw there is, we are looking that we have to organize, we have to grow. And I think the Democratic Party is doing the same thing. So I think that's why we're able to mesh well. And I think that when you look back at the platforms that both parties had in the 50s, the Democrats haven't changed their platform as much as the other party has, where they used to promote joining a union. Now they promote right to work, or they promote things that are anti-union, you know. And you know, when you have one of the billionaires come out and say that he's going to vote Republican because the unions are too involved with the Democrats, you know. So I think that, to me, is a good thing, that people recognizing that we're working class people,
right,
and that should be the party that represents us the best.
And of course, this community in particular has a long history with organized labor and unions,
yes.
And so it's even more important, it seems, for us to have that presence from a union standpoint as also the Democratic Party standpoint.
Yeah, so we're rich. One of our rich histories that we have here is, and there's a museum, is the Debs home. And it's funny when people think socialism is such a bad thing, but when Debs was a socialist, he was like for things like unemployment and workman's comp and you know, those kind of things, that's what he was for, but it was radical in his time.
Right.
But we take those for granted now. You know, I love it when I hear a retiree say, I don't want any of that socialist stuff, but don't mess with my Medicare or my Social Security. You know, so that I don't think they know where that came from.
Right.
So if we really look at our history, Terre Haute has a rich history. And I think the reason we had that history for organized labor and unions were because this area was European settlement of people who knew what things were like and knew how been oppressed, and they had the opportunities to work, and they knew collectively they were stronger.
That's great. And of course, it's recognized at Labor Day what's coming up.
Yes.
I think we're going to begin a campaign already for you'd be a great grand marshal, it seems, that you're so we're going to start that campaign already. So I want to float that out there to the parade committee.
You might just be glad that I'm retiring.
Well, it could be that too. I mean, whatever the celebration, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah. So I hope to be able to, once I retire, you know, to spend more time with my family and my grandkids. But I plan on still being on county council and still being involved and engaged at whatever they might need me to be.
Now, you've been involved in that parade, though, and that's and COVID has interrupted it at various times. But the hope is, the expectation this year, it's going to be bigger than ever.
I hope so. Yeah, and it is. There again, it's a good tradition for families, and as they talked about the other day, once we get done, then we have some time down at the park, and you can typically they have ham and beans or hot dogs and ice cream, and you can talk to these candidates. You know, just like we talked about, I thought it was really good that I realize this too, is how important the Secretary of State is to be voting and to promote and vote for a Democrat. You know, and hopefully she wins. And I got to see her here as she was coming through doing the talk with Tom McDermott that was running for Senate. But if we vote for, and that it benefits us locally too, if we vote for that Secretary of State, it's very important. So those are the kind of things that we try to educate. We have a newsletter that we educate our members on, and we have our own local election, like I said, that's coming up in June. So the democratic process that we use locally level is just like at the county level, where we have nominations and people run, and they have a platform or goals that they want to achieve.
Our production crew is delighted that you brought the Secretary of State's race up. That is near and dear to their heart, that issue about us getting Secretary of State elected.
Yeah, and you know, and if you've had the opportunity, I know you have, but if everybody else has the opportunity to look her up on Facebook or listen to her, she's an intelligent woman, she served our country, and so I think she's an excellent choice.
And you brought up the topic of the county council and your service there. Is any topics that you'd like to share with our viewership about things going on in the county council?
I think with the county council, the thing we have right now is we have this Rail to Trail and Riley. We've listened. I think that the council side has been very willing to listen to everybody's opinion. We actually postponed action on it till we could hear more input. And so I think that was a sign of good government. And not everybody's for it, not everybody's against it. And so you have to weigh that out. And then we have taken action on it, but we haven't, they tabled the appropriation, so we'll be meeting again May 31st. And I believe that it will be announced. They have to notify everybody that that meeting is a special meeting for that, so we'll be doing that May 31st. And so we'll either we'll give the appropriation for it or we won't.
Well, again, that is a situation where it's unfortunate that you had to be placed on the council. It's a tragic circumstance, so we wish that in many respects you weren't on the council for that reason, but under very tragic and just terrible circumstances. Democrat caucus, though, I think recognized the many contributions that you could bring to fill some big shoes there and avoid that is irreplaceable, but also recognizing your ties to the union and organized labor. So talk about that.
Well, and you know, just ironically, just 2 nights ago I was out working in my yard and a lady riding a bicycle stopped and told me that she had seen Don and Cheryl's bench on the Heritage Trail. And nice. She was so glad that I was on the county council at this time. There again, unfortunate circumstances that got me there, but she wanted to tell me why she was for the trail, and that she had seen their bench there and thought it was good that we were doing that work. And so that's nice when a neighbor stops you, you know, and talks to you on that too. So, you know, I think what I try to be is approachable, and I put my name out there, my email, my phone number, you know, and I've tried to take input for that.
Well, thanks for your dedication on the county council. I know how serious you've taken that and how you have been so open to people coming to talk to you and been very attentive at meetings and very involved and engaged. So appreciate your service on the county council for certain. As we are also getting to the end of our chat, though, we don't want to leave out the honeymaker here. So well, I alluded to that, threw it in there, and you didn't jump on it. So
I know I should. Well, you know, and this has been a great week. I have caught 5 wild swarms this week.
Is that right?
And you might even see some. I sustained some stings, but just this is the time of year where the bees are looking for places to live, and I have out some. What the bee traps, and then you take those bees and you give them a place to live, and it's a mutual. We have a verbal agreement there. They can leave anytime they want to, But if I provide them housing, and then I in turn take a little bit of honey back and leave them enough honey to make it through the winter. So it's a verbal agreement, I guess, because they're not trapped. They can leave anytime they want to if they don't like the accommodations.
So you're not going to make better honey
yeah.
than Todd Thacker's honey.
Yeah,
right?
And so I have it at my office, I have it at my farm, and I have it at my house.
There you have it.
So.
And then one other thing that we got to have you talk about, and I think you've alluded to before previously, but for those viewers that might have missed those episodes, can we talk about the chocolate-covered paydays? Can we?
Yeah. Well, my son had the good fortune to work down at the we call it the Heath Candy because it's actually owned by Hershey now. The Heath family had it in Robinson, and from my understanding is if you've ever had a Heath bar, the only place they make it is Robinson, Illinois. Yeah. But they also do have a payday line, chocolate covered paydays. Now, when he was working there doing a construction job, they would sell candy bars to the employees there working on Thursdays. And so, but he hasn't been working there for a while. He's working at a vinegar plant now, and I haven't gotten any vinegar, so I don't know if they.
So you don't usually see those on the shelf, the chocolate covered paydays.
I haven't seen them that often.
No.
But they're a big hit, and I don't know if they run those seasonal or if they just run them certain part of the year. I have to do a little bit on that, but I think one of the times I was here, I actually had gotten 4 pounds or so of payday bars.
So the crew appreciated that fine too, by the way.
Yeah.
So again, we can't thank you enough for your many contributions to the community, to organized labor, and to the Democratic Party, and so you got the final word here, Tom.
Well, I would like to reciprocate that and say thank you for embracing the organized labor and working with us and bringing candidates to us and telling us when we need to, this would be a good thing for us to get behind and work with our community leaders, and because it takes a group effort. And so I'd like to thank the Democrats and yourself as the chairman. And you know, and so I've had a lot of people ask me what I'm going to do when I retire, and right now it's I've got 2 more years left on this, and so we'll just see. But you never know, there might be an opportunity out there that I don't even know about yet. You have to stay tuned.
Well, we sure appreciate you joining us. This has been another great episode of Chat with the Chair. Until our next chat, I'm Joe Etling. God bless you.
Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere.